The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending today's webinar. Today's topic is on optimizing your fixed asset management. I just want to go through a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. Everyone will be in listen-only mode, so if you have questions, please type them into the questions box on the screen, and we will address them at the end of the session. If you need to step away, please do not put your phone on hold, because if you have hold music, it will play for all the attendees. This webinar will be recorded, and we will email the copy out to you within a few days. I will now turn it over to you, Ratana.
All right, thank you so much, Krista, and thank you very much for everyone attending the webcast. So welcome to our webcast for optimizing your fixed asset management. The point of this webcast is to really just shed some light on the Sage fixed asset modules and really show you how our product can assist you with tracking your assets and running depreciation without any headaches down the road. So the webcast, as Krista said, is going to be muted, but if you have any questions, I will be more than happy to address them at the end of our demonstration. Let's go ahead and get started and find out what Sage does. Sage is a company that is a global company with locations throughout Europe, North America, South America, and Asia, just to name a few. We have about 6 million customers worldwide, and those customers do range from small startups to larger organizations. Our vision is to really be recognized as the most valuable supporter of small and medium-sized companies by creating greater freedom for them to succeed. And Sage does live and breathe business every day. We are very passionate about helping our customers achieve their ambitions. The range of business software and services is continually evolving within our company, so we try to create innovative ways for our customers and to help them meet their needs. Standing behind that are our principles for operating the business, which, as you see here, is simplicity, agility, innovation, trust, and integrity, all of which we keep closely with us and connected to our customers. And since we're going to be taking a look at our fixed assets today, I wanted to give you a quick overview of how we started off and what we're currently working with. We have been around since 1982. Our offices are located in Herndon, Virginia, dedicated to the Sage fixed asset development. We were acquired back in 2000 with Accordant Analytics, and as of now, there's over 100,000 installed customer sites within the United States and Canada, also government facilities and nonprofits. We are the #1 fixed asset management software, chosen 3-to-1 over our competitors, and are used by all top 15 accounting firms in the United States, including Deloitte, Ernst & Young, and PricewaterhouseCoopers, just to name a few. Since we're talking about fixed assets today, I just wanted to kind of point out an agenda and the critical role they play in running your organization. So we're going to be taking a look at what a fixed asset is, why anyone should care about fixed assets, the unexpected benefits of a proper fixed asset management system, and different ways that our Sage fixed assets can make your job easier. So first, the question is, what's a fixed asset? Because a lot of people may not know what it is defined as. Fixed assets are actually items acquired by your organization for use in its operation that is not for resale. As you can see here, some examples that we have here are equipment, furniture, computer, fixtures, machinery. Regardless of what company or industry you work from, your company has fixed assets, and being able to manage and having a system in place to track these assets are very important. Now that we've covered what fixed assets are, let's go ahead and talk about why you should care. And looking at our site here, you should care because it's important to have accurate calculations for your books. Not knowing what you can have can always result to overpayment in taxes and insurance, and most importantly, if you want to make sure that you're staying compliant with IRS tax rules and regulations so you're not in trouble at the end of the year. You should also care because, as we all know, the value of fixed assets decrease over time. A good example of this would be the purchase of a brand new car. We all know that once we drive it off the lot, it depreciates and is no longer value at what it was. So it's important to be able to calculate these values for all assets that are in your company. And lastly, you should also care because each asset may require different methods of depreciation that you would want to stay on top of. Our software does provide you with that solution because we do have over 300,000 tax rules built into the software. And this is something that an Excel worksheet cannot do for you. And as a result, if you are currently still using Excel, it may be time and money wasted down the road when you're trying to figure out some calculations at the end of the year. Just to kind of piggyback off our last slide, we all know that the complexity continues to increase because tax laws are constantly changing. And I have here an example of some of these changes within our industry. Before 1980, companies were actually using straight line depreciation methods to kind of do their depreciation. And as reflected here, it's pretty straightforward and simple. After that, changes happened and the acceleration methods were introduced. So there was a little bit of a curve for declining balances. And then before 2001, to help spur the economy, the government also allowed bonus depreciation 168 allowance. So there has been a lot of changes within the industry, and we really don't know what's going to happen next in terms of where the rules are going to go. But our last line here reflects the possibility of unexpected changes to come. It's not the stat yet, but unless you have someone watching C-SPAN all day and monitoring these changes, a Sage Fixed Assets is currently current on their tax rules and regulations, so that way you can worry about other aspects of your business and then leave the worry to us. Now you might ask yourself, what are the benefits of having a depreciation module? Right off the bat, it guarantees you're compliant. It saves you time, and last but not least, what a lot of companies love to hear is that it saves you money. Our software will absolutely assure you that you're going to be ready for your next audit because we are compliant within IRS, GASB, Sarbanes-Oxley, and IFRS. Spreadsheets right now that are currently being used don't provide you that third-party oversight. You're not going to be receiving automatically updates with the latest rules, and there is a lack of security and assistance when it comes to disaster recovery. When you look at our product with the 300,000 tax rules that we do provide, it's also constantly being updated with the latest rules and regulations as well. There's nothing worse than realizing that you spent a lot of time on a spreadsheet just to find out that it's all wrong. And some of the challenges that we see here with using spreadsheets is just having to manually enter your assets, being limited to the reporting capabilities that you have, manually posting to your general ledger, and then CIP projects can be extremely labor-intensive going back and forth. Our product does offer you the ability to automatically add or easily import these new assets that you have. The custom reports that we have can be done with a click of a mouse, and seamless posting to your general ledger is also available as well. And of course, at the end of the day, the main goal for every business is to see a return in profits. With that being said, saving money where you can is very important. So if you're not tracking your assets correctly, the main challenge you're going to be able to see in a company is you're going to be having some ghost assets. Some of you may not know what ghost assets are, but ghost assets are assets that are currently on your books right now but are not logged or being in service. An example of this is things that have been disposed, misplaced, lost, stolen, or damaged assets. So ghost assets cost company a lot of money because they aren't properly being tracked and the company is actually overpaying in taxes and insurance. Now with Sage Fixed Assets, we can change this by offering you a solution that can work together. You'll be able to easily conduct regular inventories. You can better manage your asset additions, disposals, and transfers, and also track that capital project spending against budget. And taking a further look at ghost assets, some of you may be in the business, but does anyone, or I know that you guys are all on mute, but right now, companies may not realize the percentage of ghost assets that you may have. And just with these three companies right here, the percentage of ghost assets that does exist within companies ranges from 15 to 30%. Taking a look at those numbers and trying to figure out what the ROI for your company would be is pretty simple. Assuming that you had an organization where you had about 2,000 fixed assets, the average cost of those assets are about $1,000 each, so the total cost of your fixed assets is $2 million. With a very conservative number of 15%, your ghost asset values come to $300,000. Assuming that you're overpaying on state and federal taxes, personal property and insurance, the first year overpayment is $53,340. And this is just the savings that you're going to be able to find on the first year. It's not to mention what's going to also be found on years to come. With just that number alone, the return on investment for our package is fairly simple, and this is assuming that you're going to move forward with all the modules that we have. But as you can see here, it does provide you a good return on investment, and the net first year saving comes to $45,703. So now that we see the potential return on investment, let's go ahead and take a look at what our products do offer. We have 4 modules, the first one being planning, depreciation, tracking, and reporting. And Sage is one of the very few companies out there that can actually take an asset from cradle to grave. So I'm actually going to briefly explain the details of each module. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but just to briefly explain what it does and how it works together. This slide right here just illustrates some of the challenges that a company may face during different stages before an asset is created. The very first module that we have is our planning module. And the planning module actually keeps track of any ongoing projects that your company may be working on. At this stage, the planning module does keep track of any expenses that your company has in terms of a budget that you have for a project that maybe you're creating a bakery and you have a budget for this bakery. It tells you what's the current budget for the bakery, if you've gone over the limits. It also is the first stage to where assets are not actually considered assets before they're actually considered line items. So the planning module allows you to go ahead and track line items, and we'll roll these line items over to the depreciation module once the project is complete. So it does allow you to easily budget and manage for the projects that you're working on. You can accumulate multiple expenses from the invoices and the POs that you have. Again, being able to watch over the spending for what's going over or under. And then once the project is complete, rolling it over to depreciation so that way you can go ahead and start depreciation and maintain control of that data. Our second module is our depreciation module, and this is actually where a lot of the bread and butter is for Sage fixed assets. It does provide for you the ability to use 7 books, including the IRS and GAAP, that include the IRS and GAAP rules. We have all of the depreciation rules, over 300,000 rules that are embedded into this, over 30 standard reports that are built in, over 50 different methods of depreciation, and it does allow you to keep track of all those assets so that way you know where they're currently at, and being able to kind of customize the entire screen. We're actually going to be doing a demonstration of this in a few minutes, but this is really where a lot of the customers are looking into the use of. The very next one, which actually works hand in hand with our depreciation module, is our tracking module. The great thing about this is that anything that you see in our depreciation module in terms of the information is also viewed in our tracking module as well. The only difference is that the tracking module gives you the ability to check in and check out assets. If you were in the IT department and someone comes over to you and says, hey, I want to borrow a laptop, can I go ahead and borrow that? The IT manager can absolutely be the one to issue that information out. But most importantly, it does allow for you to do a physical inventory every single year where you could go ahead and label, barcode everything, go out to the field and make sure that all of those assets are there, so that way you don't have any ghost assets and you're not overpaying on those property taxes or insurance. So it's fairly simple. It's a matter of uploading that data into the barcode scanner, going out and finding those assets, and when you're done, you're going to sync that information back into your computer so that way you could go ahead and do the reconciliation for your data. Our next module is also known as a reporting module. Now, this is a full-blown version of Crystal Reports. Our standard reports are provided for you. However, if you want to go ahead and tweak or modify those reports, you're going to need the report writer to do so. In addition to that, if there are any reports that your company must have that we aren't able to provide for you, then this is where the Crystal Reports is going to be able to do that for you. Now, Inventory Services is a new service that was actually just rolled out sometime last year, making it easier for companies who would like to perform an inventory but don't have the capacity, maybe the manpower or the ability to do so on their own. So we actually send people out to your field, and this is actually done by a third party. So they come out and they do that inventory for you. They give you the report so that way you can go ahead and track everything accordingly and make sure that you're up to date with all of your inventories. There are 3 different products, or I should say 3 different versions of our product. There's the Lite, there's the Depreciation, and there's the Premier. So this chart just outlines some of the features that each one has. Now, as I stated before, we range from very small companies to bigger companies, and the Lite and the Depreciation and the Premier do vary in terms of the number of assets that they support, and there are also different features that we also have in here that we should be able to provide you with as well. The great thing about our company is that we do offer packages. The first package that you see on the left is called our Track Pack, and that's if you have a need to do an inventory and also want to do depreciation as well. That does come with a report writer. Project Packs is if you have any ongoing projects that you want to be able to keep track of, and then also have the depreciation module with the report writer. But the very last package is the Complete Pack that provides you with all of the packages combined. So I do want to go ahead and do a quick demo of our fixed assets depreciation module. So let me go ahead and escape out of this. Share our screen. And Krista, are you able to see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay. So when we look at our depreciation module right here, the first thing that we see is the, on the left-hand side, there are 4 tabs. And I always like to start my demos off on the Systems Admin tab, because this is where you're going to be able to come in and determine how your companies are going to run. On the upper left-hand side, our software does give you the ability to create as many companies as you'd like. The great thing about this is that with the 2013 release, we have provided the option of giving our customers the ability to choose whether they're a U.S. company, a Canadian company, or whether they're a nonprofit or government. Now, this has changed because in the past, if you had a U.S. location and then a Canadian or Canada location, you would have actually had to look into 2 separate versions. But now what we did was we combined everything so that way you can go ahead and select what version you would like, and the tax rules will then apply. Again, you have the ability to manage as many companies as you like, being able to merge, copy, extract assets from your new company, or also do an import and an export. Now, this is a fairly simple process. It's a wizard-driven process where you're just going to have your Excel sheet information ready. It's going to be the process of mapping out what you want from the Excel sheet to look like and then importing it into our software. Security is a huge concern, and our software does provide you that ability to go ahead and establish parameters. So as you can see here, if you have an intern that started the company, you could come in here and say, hey, this person has no capabilities, or they can only read, or maybe they have full capabilities. So being able to come in here and establishing how each person is going to have the powers that they have is fairly simple. Bottom left-hand side, you do have the ability to manage your history, and we're actually going to get into this in a few minutes when we actually start to create an asset. But do know that you can show as much or as little as you'd like. And then on the right-hand side, this is probably where the IT person will come in here and determine how they're going to be able to manage their database. Now, currently right now, I don't have a company open, so that's why I'm not able to click on either company. So let's go ahead and click a company and open that up, and we'll see that this is a U.S. company. The first thing that you are going to see is what we call our asset snapshot. And what this is it's just a really quick dashboard of the information that you just pulled up. And as I mentioned before, we do provide you with 7 books, the Tax Internal State and TACE, and then we also have Customs 1 and Customs 2. These 2 books right here are solely made for your company. So if you have your own way of keeping books, this can be customized for you. If you don't want to use any of these books, it can also be hidden as well. We give you the active assets net value, a little pie chart of your current property type. Bottom left-hand side, accountants love this because it tells them the last time depreciation was processed, last period closed, asset purchase, disposed, or transferred. And then coming over here to the right, there are 4 charts, the first one being the placed in service by quarter, investment by remaining life, acquisition comparison, and then we also have a depreciation comparison. Again, the asset snapshot is always going to populate, but if it's something that you don't want to see, the bottom left-hand side does give you that option to do not have it display on startup. Closing out of this, we're not going to be able to come back up to the edit a company because now, assuming that you're opening this company up for the first time, let's go ahead and make some changes and determine how each book is going to calculate depreciation. As you can see, once we click on that, you can change the name of your company right here, any identification numbers that you have, the start date of your business. Transfers can be made by any of these fields that we provide. If you'd like to round your tax reports to whole dollars, and whether or not you'd like to include bonus depreciation can also be determined here. It also lists out all of these 7 books that we have. Now, in order to kind of track this, you can go down the row and determine how you want this to be done. So if you aren't using Customs 1 or Customs 2, you can absolutely close it out so it doesn't display. You can change the titles for Customs 1 or Customs 2, and you absolutely determine the physical year end for each book. Whether or not you'd like to emulate the book, the methods of depreciation that we provide are also listed here, so each book can be determined according to what you select and if you want to enable begin fields. Short years usually come in handy. Sometimes if you're going through an acquisition, once you've acquired a company, the physical year ends may not tie up, so companies use these short years to compensate for that. Book overrides coming in and determining your mid-quarter, your adjustments, and reduced by ITC. Having contact information listed. So this should be the main point of contact where if any issues do come up, this person is going to be the go-to person. So we give you some fields here that can track that information, as well as a notes tab that allows you to keep track of everything that's happening with this company. And some examples that we have here is property tax when it was due. Maybe you want to go ahead and log any issues that you have with your last audit. This is just available for you to go ahead and track here. So let's cancel all of this. And now that we've gone through the process of how to set up your company, let's assume now that you had all those assets that were in or the Excel sheet and you actually imported it in. I'm going to go ahead and click on the Assets tab because everything that I had on my Excel sheet is now imported into the system. So as you can see here, everything is now listed out. The great thing about this is that we do provide you with a total of 28 fields up here in green. And the only 2 that cannot be changed would be the system's number and the status. These are going to be automatically system defined. The remaining fields can be tweaked and modified according to how your company would like. We did go ahead and predefine for you 18, and this is 18 of which a lot of other companies do use. So there's an asset ID, there's a description, an acquisition date, class, location, department, but we do leave blank for you 10. So that way, if you have anything that you kind of want to track within your company, you can absolutely do so. This screen is very easy to kind of modify. So if you're an end user, you no longer have to go to that IT person and say, hey, I need to customize the screen. Can you please help me out? It's really just a matter of just, for instance, if you wanted the GL expense account number to come before departments, just dragging it to that location. If you wanted to go ahead and organize everything in alphabetical order, let's take a look at class right here. It's just a matter of double-clicking on this so that everything is going to be alphabetized. And in addition to that, as I mentioned before, these can all be defined differently. So if I take a look at class, and your company may not use the term class, instead you may use the term category or type, I want to go ahead and tweak this. So I'm going to come over here to our left-hand side where we can see Customize a Field. Everything is going to be listed here on the left-hand side on what you can change. Since we're taking a look at class, I'm going to go ahead and say I would highlight class, and on the right-hand side, that gives you the flexibility on what you can do. So you can absolutely allow entry, you can require entry, view only, or hide it completely. And let's say that we want to change this to type. Now the entry mask is really going to determine on what field you click on. Class only allows up to 2 characters, but a custom field can provide up to 25 characters. And if you click on a description, it's up to 80 characters alphanumerical. Any defaults that you would like to have automatically populated can be established here, and messages can also be established here as well. And if you didn't like the order that everything was arranged in, you can absolutely rearrange the orders here. Let's go ahead and click on the Smart List Manager, because since we are on class, I do want to show you why class can only allow up to 2 characters. Now, the Smart List Manager is going to come in handy for your company because it does provide you the ability to manually, if you are going to be manually entering assets in your system, allowing you to select on the appropriate codes that you want it to be in a quicker fashion, and also in terms of reporting, being able to categorize and narrow down your reports more specifically. On the left-hand side, class only has 2 characters because, as you can see, each character does symbolize a description. So we have BD for building, CO for computers. I always recommend a Smart List Manager be created for as many of these fields as you can. So, for instance, locations, just go ahead and list out all your locations for departments, or even for employees. It does make the manual entry process a lot quicker. So let's go ahead and click Close. I'll go ahead and click OK. And as you can see, class has been changed to type. So that's how you're going to go about customizing each of these 26 fields here to fit your company needs. Also on the left-hand side, you're also going to be able to see what asset has a note attached to it, because there's a little paper pad that reflects that. So you don't have to click on all assets. You are going to be able to notify that. And you're also going to be able to see what asset has images attached to it, because there's a little paper clip here. And the images actually reflect any PDF or any invoices, any pictures, and we're actually going to get into this in a few minutes as well. So before we move on, let me come back and change this back to class. And now that that's done, let's go ahead and say that we're going to go and create a new asset. We had a new employee that started on Monday, and we want to go ahead and assign a brand new computer to this employee. On the upper left-hand side, this is where you're going to be able to add an asset. And once you click Add an Asset, there are going to be 5 main tabs that are affiliated with just that asset. The main tab, Transactions, Notes, Images, and History. We're going to go through each one. Before each asset, it's going to ask you to fill out the general information and then the book information. Now, with book information, there are 5 critical fields that need to be filled out. If you don't fill them out correctly, then it's not going to go ahead and calculate depreciation for you correctly. So let's go ahead and get this done. Actually, we're going to go ahead and come back up here to the asset ID. And this is a number that's defined by your company, so I'm just going to put in a number. I'll say that this is a brand new computer that we're going to put in place. And again, even if someone comes in and puts in the wrong description, misspells this completely, as long as it's tied to the appropriate code. For instance, I've already created a smart list here for computers or for class. It's still going to be able to pull up the reports. And again, this is where that smart list feature comes in handy, because it's just a matter of tabbing through and selecting the appropriate selections. So what I'll do now is quickly place them into the appropriate locations. Now, just to save us time on our demonstration, we're not going to fill everything out, but if you had a purchase order number, you would absolutely check that there, serial number, vendor, owner. Let's just say that the name of this person is Agent Jackson. These were all fields that can actually be reported on separately. Assuming that we have filled out the general information, we're going to come down here to our book information and fill that out. And as you can see, there's an acquisition date, and then there's a placed in service date. These 2 dates can be different. A lot of times if companies do purchase in bulk, you may have acquired a computer 5 months ago, but you're just now placing it in service today. So our software does give you that flexibility to determine that difference. However, if you don't determine that, it's automatically going to go to the placed in service date. So let's go ahead and say that we are going to place this computer in service today, and say the value is $2,000. Now, with the methods of depreciation, we do provide you over 50 different methods to choose from. Starting from the very top, we have these makers, straight line, declining balances, all the way to the very, very end, where if you have your own calculations that you'd like to import in, then you could actually use Customs 1 and Customs 2 books for that. And if you have assets that you want to track, but you don't want to run depreciation on, you can absolutely do that as well. So let me come back up here. Now, the estimated life of a computer is 5 years, but just in case you did not know that, on the bottom right-hand side, we do provide for you what we call an IRS table. Once we click on this, what's automatically going to populate is an alphabetical listing of our most commonly used assets. And this is what the IRS deems to be correct for estimated lives. So we're going to click on C, and we're going to realize that the estimated life of this computer is 5 years. Huge time saver for anyone who's currently Googling this information or thumbing through catalogs. It is made available for you right here. Now that we have our 5 critical fields filled out, it's just going to be a matter of tabbing down, because what's going to happen is everything else is going to auto-populate according to how we had our books set up in the very beginning when we were at Edit Company, and we determined how each book was going to calculate depreciation. Let's go ahead and save this asset. I do want to show you the template feature as well. Let's just say that, in the future you have a new employee that's also going to be starting, and sometimes, maybe this time, the inventory or the IT people are going to be the ones that are responsible for placing this computer into service. So what you could do is you could actually save this whole process out as a template, and I'll name this computer and click OK. This makes it easy because if someone else starts the company and you're going to place another computer into service, it's just a matter of coming up here to the upper right-hand side, selecting the computer template. All of the financial information is going to populate on its own, so that way you could go worry-free that the information is going to be correct. And all the IT people have to do is just go ahead and fill out the main information. Of course, it's not going to be assigned to the same person. It's not going to be assigned to the same person. It's not going to be in the same location, so it gives them that ability to change that. In addition to that, you can replicate an asset up to 99 times. It's very simple. Just click on the replicate an asset option and enter in the number of times you would like for it to replicate. It does show up individually in the line items in the group view. So let's go ahead and cancel out of this. I'll save this asset right now. Assuming now that maybe this person started the company and maybe your company does partial disposals. If you have big equipment, and sometimes parts of the equipment may break off or not work, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the entire thing is broken. Lots of companies do partial disposals. So on the upper left-hand side, let's assume that Aiden Jackson started this company, and when he had everything set up, the monitor wasn't currently working on this brand new computer that he has. So we're going to go ahead and dispose that asset. Upper left-hand side, we're going to click on Dispose an Asset. It's going to ask you for the date. It's also going to ask you for the method, whether it's a sale, abandonment, taxable exchange, casualty, lifetime, involuntary, or other. And is this going to be a partial disposal, yes or no? I'm going to go ahead and say yes, because I do want to show you that partial disposal is actually fairly simple. Let's just say that this monitor that we are disposing is $200. I'm going to quickly put in the description. I'll click OK. Any cash proceeds we have would go there, non-cash proceeds or expenses of sale. Once we click Calculate, it is going to reflect the gains and loss of $200. When we click OK, it's going to confirm that we are going to do this disposal, which I'm going to say yes to. And it automatically takes us to the next tab, which is the Transactions tab. This tab will keep track of everything that's ever been done to this asset. You can absolutely come in here and delete the last transaction. It really is completely up to your company. A lot of times people just keep it here just so that we can see what's been done. And assuming that we want to go ahead and transfer the remaining parts of a computer to a different location that actually has a working monitor, let's go ahead and transfer this. It tells you right here where it's currently located right now. Our software does allow for you to transfer to another company that you may have created that's not currently open. But just to show you the flow of the transaction, I'm going to keep it at my current company. And I'm going to say that it's going to move from headquarters over to the sales department. I'll click OK. Again, taking us right back to the Transactions tab because it's telling us that a whole transfer has now been done and the partial disposal did not go anywhere. It was just a little bit hidden. It still is made available for you right here. Now, looking at the Transactions tab, these notes are fairly vague. So if you want to be able to keep more accurate notes, we do have a Notes tab here that's made available for you. This can come in handy because 7 or 9 months down the road when you're on vacation and your boss comes in and tries to look through everything, they may wonder why you actually dispose this asset, why you transfer it. You now have that ability to go ahead and log out all that information so that way it's made available. You also have the ability to edit the notes when that's done as well. If you want to go ahead and include any images, so for instance, if you have an invoice that you'd like to include, you can go ahead and attach that there. If you also want to include maybe an actual picture of it, then you can absolutely do so as well. So there's not a limit as to how many things that you can attach to this right now. And if you want to remove it, it's as simple as just selecting this Remove Image option right here. The good thing about this image feature is that right now some companies may still currently be tracking or keeping a file of all the important documents, maybe on a folder or in a cabinet right next to their office. Should there, God forbid, there be a flood or a fire, that information is now gone. A lot of our customers really do appreciate this image feature because it does give you that ability to scan everything in and save it to your network, so that way, even if everything does disappear, you're going to have it backed up by your network, and that's going to be made available for you. The great thing is that if someone needs a copy of it, they could just come in here and print that information out. So you're not giving away the last copy of something and not guaranteed that it's going to return to you. The very last tab is our History tab, and as I was saying in the very beginning, you have full control over the type of history that's shown. We actually have this set up so that way we know when an asset is created, when it's partially disposed, some information changed on the book, and then we transfer this asset to a different location. So these are the 5 tabs that pertain to any particular asset. I'm going to go ahead and save this asset right now because I do want to come back out here to our main tab and show you that our software company, you have the report writer that's available, and that's a full-blown version of Crystal Reports. But before even having to use the report writer, what we do offer is the ability to consolidate and create groups. So if you had your CFO come into the office and say, hey, I want to know how many computers we have at this one location, or how many building equipment we have in location B, you can absolutely run a report on just that. So let's come over here to the left-hand side and click on Create a Group. And I'm going to go ahead and name this, let's say it's going to be HQ Building Equipment. And I'm going to click Add. And as you can see, there are many things that you can sort this with. But just to kind of save us on time, I'm going to go ahead and click Class is going to be Building Equipment, and I'll click Add. And I'll go ahead and say Location is going to be Headquarters. There's not a limit as to how much you can narrow this down, so the criteria can keep on going if you want to be very specific with the reports. But just to show you how this is going to look, I'm going to click OK, and I'll click Close. Once you've created a group, it's automatically going to be saved up here on this group feature. So I'm going to select this option, and I'm going to come down here and find that this is the group that we've just created. I'll highlight that, and here we have a report on all of the building equipment that's located in headquarters. Now this does come in handy because if you wanted to run depreciation on specific groups, you can absolutely do that. So just taking a look at the group that we've just created, we're going to come up here to depreciation, and we're going to click Depreciate. It gives you the ability to reselect the groups just in case you selected the wrong one, but we're going to keep ours at HQ Building Equipment. And you don't have to run depreciation on all of your books. You can just select a few. Let's go ahead and select Tax and Internal. The calculations for depreciation really do depend on your company. If you do it annually, quarterly, monthly, it really is up to your company. So let's say that I want to see how this is going to look towards the end of this month. I'll click OK. The depreciation expense report for the group HQ Building Equipment is now going to populate. Once that populates, since we ran depreciation on just 2 books, you can now select what book you want to see by selecting the tax or the internal option right here. And it does change for you. So this is an example of how the depreciation expense report does look. The great thing about this also is that all of our reports are exportable. So on the left-hand side, if you want to go ahead and send a copy of this to your boss via email, go ahead and format it to whichever format that you see here, whether it's PDF, crystals, HTML, all the way down to XML, and then the destination that you'd like to send it off to. If you scroll down, let me go ahead and enlarge this again. If you happen to be the person that was responsible for running this report every single month and you got a promotion, the next person that comes into your role may need to know exactly where this report came from. On the bottom left-hand side, we do provide you an idea of where it came from. So here it says it came from the group HQ Building Equipment. And the conditions that are included is class is BE and locations is HQ. So that way they could go ahead and pick up and still process this exact same report. I do want to go ahead and show you the other reports that we have available here. And there are 3 tabs here. The first one is the Reports tab. You can see all of the reports together, or you can look at just the standard reports that we have. Again, there is an example of how the reports actually look, and these are not based on your numbers. We just put in some numbers just to give you an idea. So if you want to see how the reports look like beforehand, just click on it, and the examples are going to be shown here down below. In addition to the standard reports, we have tax reports that are actually ready to go and for you to file as well. And if you need additional reports that we don't offer, again, being able to customize your reports using the report writer is also made available for you right here. Batch reporting comes in handy. A lot of times different departments may be concerned with just the reports that are important to their department. So this gives you the ability to create a batch and save all the reports that are important to your department. And at the end of the week or month, however often you run these reports, come in here and run the entire batch. In addition to that, there's a favorites report. Maybe these are reports that you run every day. You could just go ahead and save this under favorites and run this at the same time as well. Now, I'm going through this fairly quickly. This is really just a quick overview of our product. I do want to save some time for questions at the end. So the very last tab that we're going to go through is the Assistance Center tab. We've gone through the first 3 tabs, and there's a big question mark right there, because if you're having some questions that you need assistance with, sometimes you may be able to find the answers right here. Being able to add new assets, run depreciation, or run reports, you can come in here and try to find those answers. If you aren't able to find the answers, then we can be contacted via live chat, email, or phone support, which is going to be available from 8:30 to 5:30 Eastern Time. Our user's guide is also made available on the bottom right as well. And then on the left-hand side, we do provide you some resources from Sage, as well as industry resources that we have for you here. The one thing, and the last thing that I do also want to point out are some of the links that we have, so depreciation links. A lot of times if you're using one of our other products, whether it's going to be Sage 300 or Sage 100, we do have links that will actually post back to your general ledger for you automatically. So that process of having to manually post that information can be eliminated here by these links that we provide. So in a nutshell, that does summarize the depreciation module that we have. Krista, I want to go ahead and open this back up to you and to everyone else to see any questions that they may have down the road. And again, I did not go over the CIP or the tracking, but if they have an interest, that's absolutely something that we could schedule. I just wanted to make sure that we were within that 1 hour time that we allotted.
Okay, sounds good. Right now there are no questions. If you do have a question, please type it into the questions box on the screen. Oh, we have one here. How much of real-time integration is available with Sage 300 CRE, like job invoice?
That is a great question, and I believe that the answer is pretty instant, but I can absolutely get confirmation on that. I can write that question down and provide you that answer. And actually, our engineer isn't here, but we can actually provide you that information. I want to say that it's almost immediately, but I want to be sure that it is the correct answer.
Okay.
Oh, actually, he is right here. Can I put you on hold for 1 second? And I know that some of the questions coming next may be technical, so I'm going to go ahead and chime him in, so that way we can provide the answers to the customers.
Okay.
Okay.
If anyone else has a question, please type it into the questions box.
And while you do that, let me go ahead and chime them in.
Okay.
Okay, so I have our sales engineer here on the line, and the question, Chris, is that how much real-time integration does happen between our product and any of the 100 or 300 products that we have?
Real-time integration? Out of box, there's no real-time information. It's all kicked off by a process. So if you want to post depreciation, you need to initiate it either on the ERP side or on our side, depending on the link that we're using. Same goes when it comes to asset creation. Out of box, they go into purchase order, they create it, they choose the asset template they wanted to create, and then they initiate the process. Real-time or seamless integration can be designed, but it's not an out-of-box feature. It's something we need to build for a customer through professional services.
Okay.
Okay, so the next question is, can you review the option to show or calculate future depreciation on an annual basis?
Show the process on how to calculate depreciation on an annual basis?
Correct.
Okay, so the one that we just did with the group depreciation, with the group that we just created, we're just going to come over here to reports, depreciation, and click depreciation. If you wanted to do it annually, it's just a matter of changing the dates to reflect the date that you're going to be going towards. So let's just say that we wanted to see it by the end of this year. I select that option, and this is going to be the depreciation. Okay.
Okay, the next question is the asset planning module same as an equipment dispatcher program?
Can you repeat the last part of that question?
Is the asset planning module same as an equipment dispatcher program?
No, the planning module is based around budgets for construction in progress type projects, and then it basically categorizes all the invoices and POs that you accrue for a project, and then once it's done, that asset that is created is transmitted into depreciation to begin the actual depreciation process. So it's budget tracking and planning for construction in progress.
Those are all the questions that we have at this time. If anyone does have an additional question, you can feel free to email us or call after the webinar. We will email out the presentation with the recording and our contact information so you can ask any questions you like. So thank you for attending today's webinar, and we are done.
Well, thank you so much. You have a good day.
Have a great day, everyone.